Look around. You can find cars like these on AutoTrader, like that car riding your tail. Or if you're tailgating right now, all those cars doubling as kitchens and living rooms are on AutoTrader too. Are you working out and listening to this ad at the same time? Well, multitasking pro, cars like the ones in the gym parking lot are for sale on AutoTrader. New cars, used cars, electric cars, maybe even flying cars. Okay, no flying cars, but as soon as they get invented, they'll be on AutoTrader. Just you wait. AutoTrader.
Life is made up of many gorgeous moments. Cherish them all, big and small, with Blue Nile. Whether it's for yourself or a loved one, Blue Nile's unrivaled selection of expertly crafted fine jewelry and statement pieces help make all your moments sparkle. Blue Nile's experts are on hand to guide you, and their diamond guarantee ensures you get the highest quality at the best price. Celebrate a life well lived in the most radiant way and save up to 30% at BlueNile.com. That's BlueNile.com.
Check engine light on? Take the guesswork out of your check engine light with O'Reilly Veriscan. It's free. Ask for O'Reilly Veriscan today.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
It's really cool.
Bonjour, hello, and welcome to the Rugby Rugby podcast, your one-stop shop for all things French rugby, top 14, Pro D2, Nationale, fabulous towns, cities, bars, restaurants, cuisine, and brilliant people of France. Rob, big story from the weekend. Sports, cuisine, great food is why it's why we started this thing. You were involved in one of the great sporting culinary moments of the weekend. Would you care to divulge?
Unfortunately, the photo that made it viral was not mine, but I had a stab at it. Anyone that follows Footy Scran on Instagram or Twitter or Threads will have seen a something from Bromley Town FC, who were hosting the mighty Tranmere Rovers, the Super White Army, at the weekend. And I was in the away end as a Tranmere fan. And what a genuinely astonishing piece of food was pulled out by a bloke in front of me. It was a hot dog that was simultaneously burnt and completely covered in mold. And I still think about it now. It makes me feel a little bit sick, but I was like, I'm not going to have a beer. I didn't have nothing past my lips during the whole 90 minutes. I was like, I don't even trust the water after seeing that. I don't know. I did notice that the beer selection in the home end looked slightly better than the Whitstable Bay pale that was being served up in the away end at Bromley. And the away end is also, it's like next to a farm, and it just stank of gone off silage and horse manure. Which maybe that kind of inflected the food, but you hear stuff about football food or food in football league. It was I doubt they were serving up that in the home end, but in the away end it was truly horrific. I think when the lad put it into Footy Scran's initial response was no words, and it's genuinely. Look it up if you didn't see it on our socials. It is mind-boggling. It's the worst. I don't think I've ever seen food served like that, let alone at a sporting event. I've never seen food served looking like that. It is astonishing.
I'm sorry to sort of skip the initial pleasantries. How are you? But it's been on my mind how we were going to address said baguette sausage incident all day. And I feel like cutting to the chase was important. The only time I've ever seen, well, at least an image of something like that, I'm not going to say the brand names, because if I get them the wrong way around, I don't want to be sort of sued. But there was a big fast food restaurant a few years back put a picture up of their signature burger that they'd left to go mouldy, in order to prove the sort of veracity of his ingredients, no preservatives, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
that was deemed like a sort of shock tactic in the advertising world, and yet someone nearly chowed down on that on Saturday. It's
I
like
know.
nothing I've ever seen.
Oh, he went back and changed it for a pasty. That was the most astonishing thing. Like, how is he going back and getting, like, rather than just like having his £6 and be like, I might report you, he's gone, nah, fuck it, I'll have a Cornish pasty instead, please. But
what a guy.
Yeah, it's I know we can be a little bit overzealous in our support of the quality of food at French rugby, but that is just compared to English rugby or English sport, but that was just honestly on another level. It's has to be seen. And the amount, if I had a penny for every time someone said that's not real, I'll be on the next flight out to France. Like, and even Footy Scram was like, is that actually real? So I saw it with my own eyes. The fact that you've got 2 photos of it, like, shows. And he's like, whoever it was that runs the account was like, you'd be amazed how many people send in fake stuff, which blows my mind. Like, what? I guess you're just trying to go viral, but yeah. Anyway, Richard, how are you? You dodged. I didn't eat it. I'd like to say I didn't purchase it. I didn't eat it, but I'm still scarred by it.
Yeah, it's quite something. Yeah, I'm all right. I must apologise to the thousands of listeners and where my audio is a little bit ropey at the moment, and it's about to get even worse, believe it or not. We'll let you in on that in a moment. But other than sounding like I'm in a tin can, not too bad. Not too bad.
Your wife is recording an audiobook.
Yes, she is.
I know it's hard to believe, listeners, given the rich caramel tones of his voice, but yeah, Richard is the less successful podcaster and vocal performer in his marriage. So
yeah, very much riding the coattails, and most importantly, usually sponging the equipment. But alas, today, I've been banished, which is fair enough. Right, another week. Where are we at now? Seven in a row. Top 14.
What a slog!
It's a decent old block, isn't it? And there are a few. Yeah, I wouldn't say necessarily the most scintillating round of top 14 rugby, albeit there were some gorgeous highlights. But I think most of it probably went true to form. Claremont put 50 on Van, second time that's happened to them, really fallen away in the first half. Toulon beat Montpellier reasonably convincingly in the end, with including one of the most outrageous tries I've ever seen from Ryan Golo. Most
outrageous tries, to be fair.
Yeah, well, pretty outstanding both, but the one where he beats about 4 million defenders. Do you know most ever since records began, most defenders beaten in a top 14 game?
In a top 14 URC Premiership or Champions Cup game, wasn't it?
Was it?
I don't know about Champions Cup. It was I definitely saw Premiership and URC in there as well. But yeah, he scored. And also for those that are that way inclined, that try came from a spillage from Stuart Hogg, a really poor hack through from Bastien Chalereau. The first defender Vainicolo beat was Bini Vunipola, and the guy chasing back at the end that couldn't quite make it was Mohamed Awas. So for those of you that like that sort of thing, real nice
good guys
to add to the superhero story of Juto Vainicolo. But 19 defenders in a game is quite. Also, like 5 of them were within about 5 meters of his own try line in the first half. It was so wild. He kind of broke out from under his own sticks to like at least the 22, and managed to get Lenny Nucci in the bin for something really, really sloppy.
Yeah, it was seriously good performance.
Proper old school Fijian, wasn't it? Like Rokafoko or Sivivatu back in the day.
Yeah, 100%.
And we also can't move on from that game without talking about Thomas Vincent's Niniashvili moment from the Serran try. It would have been quite a good kick from Serran anyway. He does really well to chase it up, but it's just such a wild pass inside. He's just flinging it completely blind in your own 22. I know that he's trying to stop a 50-22 and they might get the line out, but yeah, he flings it back inside. And Serran is just there. He pounces on it.
been a few good ones this year and a few nearlies as well. I think come the end of the season, we could do a really nice compilation of sort of own goal, come shamble tries. It's definitely back, and I'm definitely here for it. Talking of home records, Perpignan. So I saw the score of this. They actually won this reasonably late, beat inched past Lyon, who are having a pretty impressive season, I think.
Sent a good side, Lyon. They sent a pretty good side out, which is not always the case with them for away games.
I looked at the scores, and I think this one kicked off or like a little bit later, or perhaps there's a delay or injury. I must admit I didn't see it, but when everyone else was on 79 minutes, Lyon were leading, but there were about 15 minutes left, and Kieran Brooks and the boys saw it home, staying true to don't want to be beaten at the Emgerau. But I thought for a moment we'd completely mock at him, and no one else will come on Rosbiff Rugby again. But there we go. Good win for Perpignan. First game of the weekend. I know you wanted to talk about.
I guess the story of the weekend generally though is the two Parisian teams who are all over the place.
Terrible.
Where do you want to start? Bayonne.
Let's go Bayonne. I think as we've discussed, I have been willing to afford Racing a bit of slack. I don't think up until this weekend some of their performances have been quite as bad, and some of the results haven't been quite as bad. They haven't played a proper home game. They pushed Cast in that first game of the year, but this was mind-bogglingly poor. I don't know. I don't think it's a stretch to say that.
So I watched this game knowing the score and having seen your tweet about how that score was unreflective of the game. So I kind of went into it trying really hard not to be like, God, Racing are a shambles. The scrum was pretty good. They went pretty well at scrum time. But the more the game went on, you were just like, God, this is just so one-sided. And the Bayonne tries in the second half, because it was relatively tight at half time, but the Bayonne tries in the second half, there was such an air of inevitability about them. Like the skills of all of the Bayonne players, like the way they were executing their skills, the forwards, just the patience that they had near the line was exemplary. And it was just so polar opposite to what Racing were offering up. Their pack is brilliant. Like that I know, like, we are 2 weeks on from me saying, I don't know where Bayonne are going. I don't think they've got any skills. I don't think they're going to have enough, etc. They've been pretty good. Sorelli Mangala has been fantastic. It's nice to see. I know we've kind of mocked him at times. We've got a little bit of respect for him, certain elements of his game. But it's nice to see Joris Sagons play with a smile on his face. Like, he always looks a bit sad and a bit pensive, but actually, you know, maybe the warming presence of Cami Lopez is just rubbing off on him, and he thinks, I've seen that guy play with a smile on his face. I'm gonna be a bit more. I can see elements of Cami Lopez just creeping into his game, like the odd fist pump and stuff like that.
He was
brilliant. He was brilliant.
Yeah, he was great. The whole, I mean, the Bayern pack were excellent, but the whole back row in particular, thought on a nice sunny day, were really got themselves about.
The player I think is still brilliant. Do you know how old Arthur Aturia is?
He's sort of early 30s, is he?
He's 30.
Feels like he's been around for a while.
How is he not like still bang? I'm going to fact check that because I'm still doubting it. Just saying it out loud now. How is he not banging on the door of like the French national team still? Because he's such a good player. He's a brilliant line out forward. He's really experienced. He's a great leader, I think, in that side as well. I think he's playing some brilliant rugby, and he's still got a bit of gas, like as the try that was sadly chalked off for a technicality. That was actually the only 3 points up until about the 70th minute. That was about the only 3 points that Racing scored, was the penalty from Habel Kufner taking the ball from the wrong position or whatever and getting done for offside. But they did score some points at the end. Henry Arundel, a couple of really nice touches, bit of gas a couple of times. Yeah, Arthur.
There was
30.
It was sort of a 5-minute period, wasn't it, where they scored two brilliant, one of them in particular, proper length of the field, and then just seemed to retreat straight back into I can't remember exactly when, but I think the bit that summed it up, maybe it might not have been the last try, but actually I thought Racing's defensive line out of points was quite good. They spoilt it a little bit, and they slapped one back, got a hand to an attacking line out of the 22, and about 4 blokes promptly stood around, watched the ball, and just let the Bayonne player swoop through. And I think 2 phases later they were over. But
their own attacking line out was an utter shambles.
It was terrible.
And Bayonne they won't be the first team to be picked apart by that Bayonne defensive line out, because they are brilliant. Aturia particularly, but Shoesnu certainly helps being in there. But actually, that kind of burst, which I don't think they score those tries without someone of the gas of Henry Arundel. Like, it is his gas that makes a difference. It's a lovely drop of the shoulder from Clovis Labai to finish one, but does mean that Bayonne didn't get the bonus point, which I think, given how dominant, how much better they were, they'll be kicking themselves. I think just generally, like, first game without Faz for Racing. But I think the thing that struck me on this is they just do not look like what you would expect a Stuart Lancaster side to be like. Like, we've seen Stuart Lancaster realistically, like his time in England and his time with Leinster. They don't look well coached. They don't look like they play with any structure whatsoever, which is the one thing you would expect. Like, their skills and their details is some way off. I think it's just the lack of structure is like boggling with when you think that they are being coached by Stuart Lancaster. And in theory, they're going to be having Owen Farrell as their intent.
And the coaching ticket of Michalak, Arsevsky and Rokodoke. It's not one that you think would amount to really insipid, stagnant play. And it hasn't been like that all year, but for pretty much the whole game, it was just they just looked completely toothless. And I know it's a difficult place to go. Bayonne obviously buoyant after that result at La Rochelle, but yeah, I stand by 17 points does not do any sort of justice to how big the gap was for 70 minutes in that match.
Yeah, and talking of gaps and Parisian clubs, your boys Cast absolutely dismantled Stade Francais at Stade Pierre Fabre. 27-3 at half time.
Gonna say, it could have, a bit like the reverse poded to Cast the week before. It looked like it could have been really ugly for Stade Francais. But it's still a hammering, not least as well as Cast played for an hour, I think, with 14 men. One of the more egregious red cards you'll ever see from Andrea Kachagi, with what can essentially only be described as a running elbow into the mush.
Do you know what? I watched the highlights of this today, having seen the furore around that. And there was a point today where I was like, it's not that bad. And then the next angle they showed, I was like, oh, wow, that really is bad. There's one like from behind.
The angle from behind, yeah.
Yeah. You just see him like a medieval kind of army, just with one of those things like pointing out the front of it.
Yeah, Cast have been fabulous. We've spoken at length about Stade Francais' travails, but if you want a little glimmer of light, it's your opposition not having a 12 for an hour and they haven't fired a shot. It's really, really worrying for Stade Francais at the moment. And
they scored one wonderful try through on his top 14 debut, Raffaele Costastorti, the man we've been waiting to see intercept, chip and go, backs his pace. But I think that says it all, that their kind of one try was
probably the moment of the season.
But yeah, one of their tries was just an intercept and a solo magic. But yeah, compared to some of the tries that like cohesion and relationship that some of the Cast players have, like that Fernandez one for Lebrun is beautiful. And I think on those two teams, not the Parisian ones, so Bayonne and Cast, 7 weeks in, I think they both know pretty much what their strongest team is. And I think if you're a team, maybe it's just the size of the team and the budgets and that, but I think if you're that early in the season and you're kind of that settled on your starting 15, that is a pretty good sign.
Yeah.
It does seem that, jumping back to Bayern, it does seem that Sagons now might
I think so.
taken over the mantle, and they'll just use Cami Lopez when they need him off the bench.
They had both of them though, didn't they? They finished the game. I think, did Lopez go out to 12 or the other way around?
I think Sagons goes to fullback and then they move.
Was that how they were
to the wing? I think that's what they've been doing. Yeah.
But they looked, but I think both teams looking excellent. And by all that, like it is a turnaround from where they were. They've suddenly clicked. Is it Manu? The stats don't lie. He's played 2 games. Probably not.
I think it's Sony Mangala, if we're honest.
Yeah, he is. He is having day out after day out. Great player to watch.
Doesn't look big, but he seems to be so powerful, which is a beautiful segue. You see what I'm doing here, Rich, to another 13 who doesn't look that big, but seems freakishly strong in Emilian Gaeton, who battled hard, as did the rest of the Section Palois boys, against what is quite frankly a team that's a bit too good. They didn't even play that well, I don't think, but Poe had to they had to battle so hard to stay in that game. And then it just feels a bit unfair that they've then got, like, Toulouse is that physical and they've got that many threats across the park, and they have Antoine Dupont. Like, that just feels unfair. Like, give him to Poe, that'd be fair.
Yeah. I think for me, what sums this up, and you're right, like Poe, from everything I saw, did more than scrap. They were excellent. But I think what sums it up is obviously the headline is Dupont's flick out the back for the Cramon try. It's magical, don't get me wrong, but the finish from Cramon, he's got so much to do, and that's their third choice hooker.
Yeah, and he's dragging 3 Poe players over the line with him. Like, that's it's a proper strong finish.
It's an amazing finish. That's the bit that gets me. You have your arguably the best player in the world, one of the greatest to play the game, pulling stuff out of a hat like that, flipping it off to a guy who is lucky. That's unfair. Does not get the game time he might at another club. And it could do things like that, and he's not even on the bench when they're at full click. It's a remarkable squad. Yeah, and you're right. They weren't amazing, were they? But it never really felt in doubt.
No, and it's so horrible for Poe to scrap that hard and just come out 0 points, like in the league.
Yeah,
home record done. I thought Sasha Zeger, they could have really done with Gorgadze in this. I think that might have made a difference. I think they could have done with Tanguy Valo starting as well, just a bit more bulk and ball carrying, but it was basically Sasha Zeger by himself. Did you see his tackle on Capuozzo when he's being treated? He's being treated by the medic, and he sees Capuozzo is coming through and basically like hunts him. It's like a parent like hunting down their toddler when they're like running away, isn't it? And he just like hunts him down and clobbers him. Like, it's so good.
I tell you what, the physio is not far away from him either. Like the physio is running like a bit of a blocking line just to buy that extra split second.
But yeah, Willis made the shortlist for Player of the Weekend. He was an absolute pest all game in the best Jack Willis of ways. He was sensational. We'll come on to Gaeton, Cost in a bit later, I think, and Atisogbe. It's just tough on Poe. Toulouse are back at top of the table thanks to defeat, finally, for UBB, but not a weird old game, this.
It was a really weird game. Interesting for about 20 minutes at the start of the second half. Yeah. Bordeaux went with the Razzie 7-1 split, and promptly had Yoram Moefana red carded. It's sort of the first half kind of had it all, in the sense of there were a couple of lovely tries from La Rochelle. Teddy Thomas has looked brilliant again at 13, but there could have been 3 red cards quite easily.
Yeah,
I think Cancourier in particular was pretty lucky. He does basically whack him in the face.
Oh, I think the Cancourier one is a red.
Yeah,
it's a definite red.
And I think if it hadn't come off the back of another sort of half and half, which was given as a yellow, I think.
What, the Bastien Verne one?
Yeah.
I think that was lucky, but I'm okay with it being yellow. I think
I'm completely with
Cancoré
you.
one is a red.
I'm completely.
One's a red.
I totally agree, but I also think they were almost sort of lumped in together, and probably the easiest default was to do that.
I think the Cancoré one is more of a red than the Murfana one. I think Murfana is lower. He's actually bent over a little bit. Cancoré is bolt upright.
Maybe. I think they're both pretty stonewall, to be honest.
Yeah.
Bordeaux. I mean, La Rochelle, as they always are, really powerful. Looked slick at points. I think Bordeaux, it felt like a real non-contest. And just before half time, they started to click a little bit, and it was very much guy we both love, Gazzotti, who was at the fore of that, just carried with a little bit more intent, a bit more aggro, and then
I thought he
first
was
10
great
minutes
though for a lot of the first half. Like that was
he wasn't
sloppy, and that was the first time I've seen him not that great. But then start of the second half, he was brilliant again.
And that was the kind of catalyst for getting them going again. And I think in a slightly obtuse way, they'll be disappointed not to certainly get a point out of it. But I think given 14 men for that long, a little bit of experimental setup, I don't think Bordeaux will be too upset. And they were really genuinely off in the first half in a way that does sometimes happen with them, I think, regardless of personnel. And I know they had no Luku, no Jalabert, but even so, they were
their bomb squad of Tavita Tatafu, the number 8, Samu, Mathieu, Lamont.
Mathieu was wicked.
Yeah, really cool. And also, talking of subs, La Rochelle brought their 4th choice tight head off the bench, who at one point was charging towards Louis Bielbarré in one of the bigger mismatches you'll see this season.
I love Colombe so much. He's just got like a bit of he's just got a bit of like a cheekiness to him. I think when he's that big, wears a big like oversized shirt, and there are a couple of little steps in there as well. Put that into place with a guy who can monster people in the scrum. But La Rochelle, we've said for a while now they're coming back good. Maybe it wasn't a vintage performance, got a little bit sloppy at points, but I think they'll be they're looking good.
Players that you're used to seeing play well, like Kerbale, Hastoy, Dulan, just linking up together. One of the Dulan guys, they worked out really nice. Like all 3 of them together. He's
such an important player for them, isn't he, Dulan? When he clicks, it all seems to come out all right.
It makes that performance away at San Sebastian even more baffling last night. Next weekend, if we brush through that, the big game for me is Sunday night game again. Toulon, Toulouse. Toulon travel to Toulouse. It'd be interesting to see what side they take. A couple of Racing Perpignan suddenly feels quite big, as does Racing Perpignan and Stade Francais Clermont feel like quite similar games, don't they?
Yeah.
Doesn't get any easier for my boys away at Bordeaux. Cheers. Thanks very much.
Don't hold out much hope there.
Van, what are you thinking about that with Cast?
Van Cast, I don't know. It's a massive game for Van, right? Like Cast haven't travelled well. I'd say they haven't travelled that well. They've been there and thereabouts without getting a win.
They've not been bad in any of the games. They've been pretty tight in all of their games.
Without getting over the line, I don't know, Van have got to win most of their home games. It'd be interesting to see whether, I assume Cast will go full click and see it as one. They can get some points on the road. Could be a cracker. Could be a wicked game, that.
Home wins seem to be back in French rugby. Similarly in Pro D2.
Whoa, mate! There were loads of away wins in Pro D2 this weekend.
There was 2.
Oh, I thought
that's 25%.
Oh, I thought there were 3. Oh no, it was a
draw. It was the draw.
It's a draw. The draw's done me. Shout out to Soyo Angoulême, our boys Sax V, who have conspired to not win a game at home, not lose a game away.
And also not lose a game away, yeah.
and draw one of each is remarkable stuff. But yeah, I think the main story here, brilliant last minute, slightly controversial win for Provence against Brive. The someone getting turned over onto their head in the last minute, and the ref going, nah, we'll give that as penalty to Provence. But yeah, real comeback.
Hell of a finish from Drouet.
Oh, it's so
we
good.
We talked about those Provence wingers a few weeks back, just being pretty electric. That was a hell of a finish.
Yeah, very, very impressive stuff. Grenoble beat Béziers on the road. Biarritz edge past Auvergne.
Oh, that's the third away win. That is the third away win.
Yeah.
I beg your pardon. I've done you.
No. Oh, who? Grenoble.
Grenoble, Stade, Soise, and Montauban.
Yeah. With Montauban, amazingly, top of the table. Montauban
last year's
Biarritz.
14th and 15th are first and second.
Astonishing.
Which is really astonishing. I don't quite know I wish I knew more about the ins and outs of Montauban, because how do you go from...
It's a brilliant turnaround. You say you're wearing Montauban.
Yeah.
You should know.
Well, I'm honouring the fact they're top of the league, and I'm wearing Saks V hat because back-to-back draws is just sensational. Oyonnax are actually down near the bottom reaches.
They've had a terrible start for a team of that budget and expectation. It's not looked good. And
a missed opportunity for both the bottom boys to get home wins against probably quite beatable opposition. So that Montauban win was late as well over Valence rounds. So Valence, that was probably one that got away. Aurillac, as we will soon find out, pretty disappointed with that home defeat to Stade Niçoise, who seemed to be good away but not great at home.
We can hear a little bit more about that game, can't we?
Yeah, we are delighted to be joined by Aurillac hooker Ronan Loughnane and a man dialing in from the International Space Station that sounds quite a lot like Richard Croney. So enjoy the interview, enjoy Richard's sound. But yeah, some cracking insight into Aurillac and a lot of Pro Day 2 chat with Ronan coming up. Okay, so we are delighted to be joined by yet another tight five forward. We've only had tight five forwards on the show so far, but absolutely really excited to get someone from Aurillac on board, because it's a club that is a real intrigue to us. But we are delighted to be joined by former Ireland under-20s hooker, Aurillac hooker of 24 appearances in Pro Day, most importantly, starting hooker for the Rosby's Rugby Pro Day 2 British Isles 15. Ronan Loughnane, welcome to the Rosby's Rugby podcast.
Thanks for having me on, gents. Cheers.
How are you doing? How's your day been? Was it a tough one today after Friday night? Was it with the boys downbeat? Was it kind of how was training today? I assume you were in training. I don't know. If
we were in today. We had a tough loss on Friday night against Nice. They're a real quality side, just been promoted, but I think they've done some really good recruitment this season. Brought in a lot of guys from kind of outside the French league, and yeah, they're doing really well. But look, we won't be very happy with our performance. There was a lot of times we entered their 22, we just weren't really clinical enough. Kind of like with 3 yellow cards as well during the game, so killed us. Yeah, look, we'll be looking to kick on now with another 4 games in this block, so lots of opportunities yet still to come.
It's when I know it's done in blocks, but it always feels like a bit of a slog, like kind of that's six game blocks, and you don't kind of get you get a week off rather than Europe. But how do you guys build that up? Is it kind of like, right, we're just going to go for home games, and how do you look at it when it comes to the blocks? Is that how the coaches look at it? It's like, right, this block we need this amount of wins, or
Definitely.
How do you guys go about it?
Yeah, so like when we kind of approach each block, we have an objective in terms of points. There'll be certain games you want to target. It's probably like a small difference in mentality, like coming to France, and like I hadn't really, this is my 4th season out of Aurillac, but like when I came to France, I didn't realize the importance of home fixtures. Like it's huge, like we put a real emphasis on winning those home games. So like to have lost a couple of games at home already this season, it's quite deflating. But You just got to kind of keep going, and I think it makes the wins on the road even sweeter, because sometimes the supporters don't even expect it. So
I think like we touched on it just before we kicked off the interview proper. Like, it's been a bit of a weird season, and it kind of feels like all Pro de Deux cliches are kind of out the window. And like one of the great cliches is that Aurillac, tough place to go. Do you guys feel that as part of the squad? Is it kind of mentioned that, we've got a proud home record, we're kind of in the middle of the country, no one really wants to come here, sort of thing? Is that built up? Or is it just we've got a great community, we want to do them proud?
Oh, I think it's definitely something we lean into. I'd like a lot of people, when they think of Aurillac, like, they think it's going to be wet. They think the pitch is going to be a bit heavy. It's going to be a long bus trip for a lot of the boys from the south. And yeah, they're probably not looking forward to it. They know it's probably going to be a pretty physical battle as well. We kind of pride ourselves on our pack and how physical we can be in the kind of attritional game we play. So for those teams coming here, yeah, we lean into it. We're excited by the fact that they don't want to, they're probably not too excited about playing. For those teams coming here, I feel like they always think they can have a crack at Aurillac, and often they send a real good team here, so it's always a good test. It's never a simple game.
Yeah,
I guess, go on, Rich.
I was going to say the two, cause I know you said it hasn't been sort of the ideal start to the season, but if I'm not mistaken, the two sides you have turned over were Béziers and Grenoble. So, who are access match and in the sort of Barrow spots last year. So there's still obviously a little bit of that start, even if it hasn't quite gone to plan.
Yeah, 100%. Like, we've won those two games, as you said, at home, and they were like really good performances. Like the game against Grenoble, I think we scored 32 points in the first half. It was just one of those games where, like, your lancements, your starter players were on point. Like, everything just went really well. And then Béziers was a little bit different. Finished up 16-15, so a 1 point game. But like, they're two really big teams who were, as you said, were like in the fast finales last year. And there's been the other games that we played, we could have kind of gone either way. Like, we got a point away at Coulommiers, our second game of the season, and it was probably a game we could have won. I think Coulommiers won with a last minute penalty. And Montauban as well, we were leading at half time. So, you just got to be, there's been a couple of away games that could have went either way. So hopefully they'll start falling in our favour.
I guess just touching on the kind of people come to you guys thinking that they can have a crack at you. I guess it's relatively well documented that Aurillac are on a tighter budget than a lot of other clubs. I think kind of the game we were at when you guys were down at Brive, like looking at whatever Rugby Rama or Midi Olympique say, they've got 3 times the budget of you. Is that, I guess it's probably not talked about in the squad, or is it? Like, is it used as fuel for you guys, or is it just, we don't care, we just do what we do? Like, do you feel that kind of, we're on a tight budget type thing? Do you guys feel like the underdogs in quite a lot of games?
Yeah, we probably do. Well, just personally, I definitely would. I think I definitely would kind of play with a bit of a chip on my shoulder, and I'm sure a lot of other boys do. I think the good thing about Aurillac is it gives like a lot of opportunity, like it's given opportunities to an awful lot of guys, and you kind of want to repay the club. Like you say, our budget is pretty small in comparison to the likes of Brive and Oyna, but I think we really kind of punch above our weight. We're competing week in, week out, and as I said, like we should be higher up the table. Like a couple of games that could have went our way, but didn't. I think it's still positive. I think boys do play with a bit of a chip on their shoulder, though.
Yeah, quite right, exactly. And on that as well, there's an article journalist Francisco Isaac wrote in April about Pro de Deux and the sort of number of nationalities and things like that, and Aurillac was called out as having a particularly sort of, I guess, eclectic squad and like really interesting recruitment policy and scouting. Because I was having a look through the list earlier, and there's a few Irish boys, a few guys, a few Dutch, and then you've got your Tongans, Fijians. Like it's a real.
Yeah, it's actually pretty mad. Like I suppose coming from Ireland, I'd only ever played with Irish guys, but there's like such, as you said, there's such a mix of nationalities. I think there's probably over 8, maybe 8 or 9 different nationalities in the team. And that I'd imagine as like a coach or the coaching staff, that might be kind of daunting, like how are we going to kind of get these guys to gel? But like what we like during the summer or during the preseason, we did a couple of stages. Like we did a stage up in the mountains close by. That's great for team cohesion. But like even small things like we do dinners where different boys will bring dishes from their respective countries. But we all seem to get on really well. Like there's no real groups, boys. Like we have a coffee club here on a Thursday. The boys come round to mine, and there could be there's 10 or 15 boys that come, and they come from all over the world. It's pretty cool. So it's nice to know you have a bed if you ever want to do a bit of traveling post rugby. Somewhere in the world.
What's Ronan Loughnane bringing to the table in the multicultural, multinational meals? What are you bringing along?
Shepherd's
pie. Bag of potatoes.
Bag of potatoes, yeah. Maybe some Guinness as well, but shepherd's pie, 100%.
Nice. I guess you kind of touched on it with the blocks and the fact that you guys feel like you're a little bit underachieving, but historically Aurillac have always kind of punched above their weight. Like what was going into the season? Like what was the aim? What was the targets for the whole season? I guess, was it barrage? Was it better than last year? Was it let's stay up sort of thing? Is it? Yeah.
Well, I think definitely just try to do better than last season. Like there was no reason last season why we couldn't have been in top 6. I know maybe a lot of teams might have been surprised by that, but we felt we had a really good group last year. We were pushing, we had, I think, come February, March, the end of our second last block, we were in 6th, and we played away at Rouen and we lost, which sort of killed us. But yeah, I think our objectives were really to be kind of pushing for top 6, just be doing better than we were last year. But I think in Portugal, everyone is pushing for that spot. It's so competitive. Nobody wants to be down near the bottom. So, be pushing for playoff rugby, really.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's quite, when we saw you guys, it looked like I think Rich, you kind of pointed out just really well coached and cohesive, kind of like you say, yes, Breve were massive and had every star player that they could have put out. Yeah. But you guys look pretty organised for a large part of the game. So I think it's anything's possible really in Pro Day do. I think it's just been a wild season so far.
Yeah,
I guess
absolutely.
Going back to the start then, how does a 20-year-old who's just finished playing in the under-20s Six Nations for Ireland, as you said, only ever played with Irish blokes, how on earth did you end up signing a contract in the middle of France in Aurillac? Yeah. It's not like Toulouse have come calling. It's with the greatest respect to Aurillac. I mean, it's bloody cool, but how did it happen?
Yeah, it's pretty funny. So I was in preempting to the under-20s Six Nations. I was in the Leinster Sub Academy for 2 years, kind of in preparation for the Six Nations and with the hopes of signing an academy contract with them. But I was told post Six Nations that there was going to be no contract for me in Leinster. It's such a competitive place. And I mean, you have the 2 starting Irish hookers there now, playing week in, week out. So there's a big battle for spots. So I'd kind of got in touch with an agent, and I started looking about possibly moving abroad. And for me, I'm lucky, my parents were very supportive. I was in the middle of a degree, and it would have been easy for them to say, no, you should stay and finish your degree, but they knew all I wanted to do was play rugby professionally. So got in touch with an agent and was just looking for anything really. had some interest from different clubs in France and further afield. Then the RFU asked if I'd stay and go on loan in Munster for a couple of months. So I went down there, had a good time, but nothing came of it again. And then I got onto my agent, and he said, Aurillac have come through with a 3-year deal. And I think that time he kind of reiterated the importance of the GIF qualification and what can come of it. So I thought it was a real no-brainer. So yeah, I didn't give it much thought after that. I mean, he rang me at probably 10 o'clock in the morning. Had no idea where Aurillac was. Like, hadn't done French in school. And by 3 o'clock the next day, I'd signed, and I was gone over next week. So it's things move fast in rugby, but it's been cool ever since.
I just love how almost everyone's story about how they ended up in France is like, agent got a call. Within 24 hours, I was signed. It's like, yeah, it's wild. Like how quickly everyone's stories are like. It's the same for pretty much everyone. It just baffles me.
It's crazy.
I guess you kind of mentioned that there were other ones out there, and you didn't know much about Aurillac. What were your first experiences of Aurillac? You know, pretty wet behind the ears, 20-year-old. It's pretty much the middle of nowhere, isn't it? Like, what's Aurillac like as a town? What was your first experience of it?
So I flew into Toulouse, and my agent collected me, drove me here, and I was expecting, like it'll be an hour or two. It's a bit of a trek from Toulouse, so it was about 3.5 hours. Got here in mid-November, and it was bloody freezing. I was here in like a pair of gym shorts and a t-shirt, and my agent was telling me, you should probably start wrapping up. Like you don't want catching a cold in your first month in training. I was like, oh shit. And arriving, it was snowing. So I suppose I got thrown in at the deep end. I can just remember it being very cold for the first couple of months. But kind of the longer that I'm here, like the more I appreciate it. Like it's very similar to Ireland. There's green fields all around. The town is quiet, but it's really nice. The people are like unreal, and the beef is great, which is a big thing for me. I really like it. It's cool.
I
would say on the town. So a few weeks back we were in Brive, then we went to Cast the next day, and quite, not comparing directly, but quite smallish places, fairly isolated, and rugby is like really the sort of fulcrum. Does that real tie between Aurillac and the team and the town exist, or how are the folk down there?
No, definitely. They're rugby fanatics. Like you'd be going down the town and to get the pan from the boulangerie, and like there'd be people stopping you and asking about the game at the weekend, or even the barber, like when you go in to get the haircut, like he's mad to chat about the match. And they're very supportive as well. I probably thought coming to France that like a couple of losses and the supporters would be kind of at your throat, but like last season, it's funny, as I said, we were kind of competing for top 6 until the last few weeks. And then we were kind of up against it because we had to win against Béziers and Montauban to solidify ourselves in Pro D2 for this season. And even then, I got such nice messages from supporters who I'd never met, just kind of like encouraging us for the next couple of games. And I thought it was really nice touch. So the people are great.
Place, it's meant to be a beautiful area as well, isn't it? Like the kind of the Cantal region, and it's lots of food in that, I guess. Oh,
it's incredible. Like when we do the stage in the mountains, like it reminds me of Lord of the Rings. We're kind of the hobbits walking across the mountains. It's awesome. It's a really cool place, and you hear the cowbells going all the time, even at the game sometimes. They have the cowbells, the supporters.
You had a Tour de France stage as well, didn't you, over the summer?
We did, actually, yeah. That was cool. It was really nice to experience, a bit of a bucket list moment. That's awesome.
You've been at Aurillac for 3 years now. Is that the long term? Are you kind of Aurillac for life now? Is that where's are you going to be a French international? Is that the dream, or kind of where do you see yourself going?
Yeah, so I suppose last season was my third, and which meant that like the start of the season I was drift qualified.
Yeah.
So as you know, like you need kind of the average of about 18 drift qualified players in like your match day 23, and it's just really beneficial to have that. No, for me, like I'd love to kick on from Aurillac. It's been great for me. Still really enjoying my time here, but feel that I'm nearly at the level now that I can be competing in top 14 week in, week out, and that's my goal for now. Be at top 14 or to play back at home in Ireland for one of the provinces. Obviously, international rugby would be amazing. I'm American qualified as well. I was born there, so I've had those conversations. So that could be something I might try down the line. Something that really excites me. But yeah, playing for France as well. I mean, I'll be qualified in 2 years' time, so who knows where I'll be and what I'll choose. But yeah, definitely, I'd love to progress.
There's a Rugby World Cup in the US, isn't there? 2031.
2031.
The next one. So you'll be in your prime by then, won't you?
In my prime,
30, yeah.
Exactly. So a front rower.
So the front of all the posters is the USA star hooker.
There you go. Yeah, fluent in French. So we'll see.
Rich, I think Rich, you had a question about possibly some other sport, I think.
Yeah, I was doing a little bit of sleuthing, a bit of research beforehand, and I found something saying you played a bit of hurling in your day.
I did, yeah.
Is that true? And how does it's a game I've never seen it live, but I've always found it just mind-boggling to watch. Was that ever on the agenda as well?
It was. I mean, I played hurling until I was like 17, until I was my last year in school, and I loved it. It was always my second love. Rugby was always my first, but I have so much respect for the boys back home who hurl, like, because physically it's such a tough sport. Like, those guys are covering like 9-10 kilometers in a game. There's like some serious collisions in it as well. And they take such good care of their bodies. Like, I go home sometimes and I'm chatting to one of the hurling boys, and like, they're asking me about training, and I'm telling them, and then they're telling me about what they have to do, but like, they have to work a full-time job on top of that. So it's it seems pretty tough. Like, I really enjoy playing it. I think it's great for ball. Like, even now, like, I can see the benefits from when I played hurling, like the ball handling, the hand-eye coordination. It gives you a different sort of skill set, which is great.
What's scarier, packing down against some of these Georgian French monsters, or seeing someone wind up in front of you with a hurley stick?
I think someone winding up in front of you about to take your shin off is probably worse.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I guess on that then, who's the best player you've played with in Pro Day Dirt then?
That's tough. Who's the best? We've a lot of good players. Last season, I'll give you a couple. So, like last season, our starting 10, Antoine Ocagne, who now plays for Perpignan. He slotted a last minute clutch kick there 2 weeks ago. And like, for any of the boys who know him, that's completely normal. Like, my first season here, so I arrived in November, and I was training with the Equipe Esport, like in with the academy side. And we won the Esport Championship that season, beating Toulouse in the final. So it was a huge occasion for the start, like for the team and for the town. Like, it was incredible.
Yeah.
It was a good way to start my time here. So, like, on the way to that final, like, he had a clutch kick against Perpignan in the semi-final, quarter-final as well against Clermont. So he was able to create like absolute magic. Like, often compare him to Finn Russell, the way he plays the game. And then I suppose like boys I've learned a lot from, like Owen Masterson, who's a back row here, an Irish guy, played over 100 times for Connacht. Probably learned the most from him, just the way he kind of conducts himself in training and his professionalism and stuff. So been able to learn a lot from him.
Yeah, we saw Antoine the day after we'd been, because of that the day after that brief Aurillac game, we were down at Castres Perpignan. He was brilliant. He was brilliant for about 65 minutes, and then we said, I think one of us said, "Oh, his 10's really good," and then proceeded to have 5 minutes of just shanking every kick. But he was brilliant before that. I was gonna ask who's the best player you've come up against and kind of thought, what the hell are they doing here? But I guess it could be Pro D2. It could be the Espoirs then, if you guys have turned over Toulouse. But yeah, is there anyone you kind of come up against and thought, how on earth am I playing against this person?
Okay. Well, like whenever I would have been younger, like would have watched Leinster, like would have watched all the provinces a lot. Jimmy Goppert's playing for Provence, so I got to play against them last season. That was pretty cool. Same with like scrummaging against Tommy Francis. Like was watching him for Wales like a couple of years ago, so that was it's pretty nice to be kind of putting yourself up against an international, you know, who's finished up their international career quite recently, and who could definitely still be doing a job there, you know. So you want to be playing against the best week in, week out, so you improve as a player, especially. Yeah, of course.
Well, Geography 6, but yeah, British Lion.
Yeah,
I actually bumped into him in the bar in Auckland, so he's a lion to me. And what about the Espoir? Was there anyone in that Toulouse team then that's like now? There must be someone that will have.
Yeah, Josh Brennan, second row. Yeah, he's been doing really well for Toulouse. Did a real good Fijian winger centre. I think he was on loan at Provence last year, and I think he'll be back at Toulouse now. He was excellent. Entamac's brother, Entamac. He was a good player, but that was huge to be able to turn them over in the final. And even like we played against Perpignan in the semi-final. They were probably favourites for the comp, and Sola Tuolagi was on the bench, and like he must have been like 17 at that stage, and he came on absolutely like the biggest human I've ever seen. Like must have been like 145 kegs at like 17, and we had this little winger who was on the bench. He'd probably come on for like the last few minutes and absolutely walked over him. Like, the boys still give him shit about it, but he's a big dude.
You're the second person in 2 weeks to say the biggest person I've ever seen, which is amazing. Yeah, that's phenomenal. What are the crowds like in the Espoirs? Do people turn out for them?
It was pretty quiet now. Like we didn't have too many supporters early on in the season, but like by the time we got into the fast finals that year, like the final was in Claremont Stadium.
Oh, nice.
Stade Marcel Michelin, and there was like 7,000 people at that, which is pretty cool.
Wow, that is cool.
But like some of the supporters, some of the stadiums in Pro D2 are unbelievable. Like Van last season was incredible. That should definitely be on your list to try get again in Van. Oh, like they're all like Brive was incredible last season as well. And they've opened up the new side of the stadium.
Yeah.
Gates for Aurillac, like we're probably getting a couple thousand at each game. But they're loud, you know, which is great. Like they're very passionate fans. You know, we don't have the biggest city, so you know, and it's pretty cold most weeks, but we still get a good crowd, which is great.
We were sat near them at Brive, the bulk of the Aurillac supporters, and they sang like all game. It was incredible. Yeah. Like must have been about a couple of hundred, maybe. Like there wasn't loads of them, but they were making so much noise all game. It was great. It's like they've like properly turned up.
Yeah.
Sort of round things off, we're always keen to kind of understand if we ever make it out, hopefully we will, to Aurillac. What are your recommendations? Where are you eating, drinking? having coffee,
Okay.
or is it just
Coffee clubs at Ronan's on a
Coffee
Thursday.
club.
Coffee club at mine, yeah.
and international bring a dish day? Other than that, where should we be heading?
It'd be great to have you out for a game, all right? Doe Cafe is a nice little cafe by my coffee beans there. The ladies are lovely as well, so if ever want to hop in behind and do a flat white, they're happy to let me. So that's a great spot.
I really hope that's not a euphemism.
Then there's a sushi restaurant, Naka, which is a great spot. We kind of go there most Tuesdays, foreign boys. And then other than that, there's probably a good steak restaurant in the centre of town.
I was going to say, what about the beef?
Yeah, great steak restaurant, Le Darmier. So there's great choice. Like the food here is incredible. I think the first couple of weeks I was here, the French guys were telling me like you have to try truffade. I'd like never heard of this before, but it's basically mashed potatoes with Cantal cheese and bacon, and they like mix it in the wheel of cheese. It's incredible. So not great for the skin folds, but really good.
Rob, I can see you salivating. That sounds like sort of thing someone might try and, lure you into a trap with.
Yeah, sign me up. Sign me up. I mean, that cheese and potato dish sounds absolutely sensational.
It's incredible.
And then I guess Mont-de-Marsan away this week. What's the kind of plan of attack there for the taking? Certainly, they've also had a bit of a patchy start to the season. Definitely,
yeah. They've lost a couple of games at home this season so far. So it's just important that we get back on the horse. Like we can't be, down in the dumps. And like I think we had a really good day of training today, and Tuesdays are kind of our heavy day. So we'll be wanting to put together a good platform this week, just get a good week of training done, and move on, and try to take them away. That's the plan.
Yeah. Well, best of luck.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And cannot wait to get out to Aurillac for a game, for the food, for the going around the back and having a flat white. All of the above. Ronan Loughnane, thank you very much for coming on the Rosby's Rugby podcast. I reckon you're pretty nailed on for a starting role as hooker in the Rosby's Rugby British Isles 15 next year as well. After that interview, you've kind of secured your spot. But
thanks for having me on, gents.
Thanks very much, and all the best for the rest of the season.
Cheers.
Glad to say I've made it back safely from my trip to the moon to interview Ronan. Lovely guy, and Aurillac sounds a bit of us, I think, mate.
It does, doesn't it? And I'm certainly going to be looking out for them for the rest of the season. They just sounds like he was a lovely lad, and it sounds like a lovely bunch of guys that, I don't know, it just feels like a right little family.
Yeah, good luck.
I'd quite like to be part of.
That sounded slightly dark. Good luck to Aurillac on their trip to Mont-de-Marsan at the weekend on Friday night. What takes your fancy? Give me one game this weekend.
I mean, that one is the kind of, I'm really intrigued by that. Certainly after our chat, I think the interesting one for me, I'm going to be a bit parochial here. I'm going to go Sax V at home to Biarritz.
Definitely.
I think that's a fascinating one, given, will we see another draw? Who knows? Soy Angoulême still winless at home. Biarritz going really well. It has to be said. So yeah, quite a long trip that as well. Relatively long trip. That would be my one. Couple of English wingers, couple of English flyers up against each other. If Zach Kibarigi off the back of a double comes up against Johnny May.
Yeah, definitely.
For you, which one stands out, Rich?
I'm going to be a little bit greedy. I'm going to have two. I think Nice, Valence, Roman, because that is starting to get really tricky for Valence. And a opportunity for Nice to go two on the spin and build a bit of momentum. And the other one is it's the side you're representing tonight, Montauban. They host Grenoble. And, possibly, I think they've had, a reasonably, not charitable, but good-ish run of fixtures. Albeit you still have to win them, and Grenoble have travelled pretty well this year, so be interesting to see how they come out against them. Yeah, that's the one for me. Thursday night as well.
I can't work out Grenoble away from home. I can't quite work out how strong those teams are that they're sending, but they seem to have picked up a couple of good wins. But then they also got hammered by Aurillac, so who knows? Colomiers, you're right. Colomiers and Montauban have had relatively favourable starts to the season. I think the fact that Colomiers pushed Oyonnax close a couple of weeks ago shows they're doing quite well. But this will be a good test of Montauban and where they are really at.
For sure. Did you wanted to discuss international rugby for the first time this season?
No Nationale this week, Rich.
Well, there would be, but you took the piss so much last week about it being the same report that I thought I'd just gloss over.
No, I liked it. It's because I also had a look at the table today, and it is really bloody hard to work out what's going on.
It just doesn't move.
But it also doesn't add up, and you can see different depending on different websites. You see different tables, and they still say the same amount of points, but it's different games. It's just carnage.
All you need to know is Chambéry atop, Rouen clipping at the heels, and down at the bottom, Marc-en-Barœul from Lyon are struggling a bit, but so are Bourg-en-Bresse. They did, but they're hanging in there. But Bourg-en-Bresse, who were Pro Leader not that long ago, quite a proud, famous club, struggling.
And Massy, similar. Have you seen who's playing at 9 for Chambéry?
I'm not sure I have. It's not
best calves in world rugby.
I know. Surely the best calves in world rugby were the guy Claremont who used to wear the pink boots. The prop.
Your healer, the Tongan Bear.
The Tongan Bear. No, enlighten me.
Tane Takalua.
Ah, okay.
Nice. Do you know how old he is?
I don't know. No,
he's 33. I was like, he must be 38. Surely he's been around for years. But yeah, still killing it. And he was at Auvergne last year, so I saw him in the Montauban game. And those calves in the flesh are really quite something. They are genuinely, I think, bigger than my thighs.
Legit calves.
But yeah, so I'm now backing Chambéry and the elephant badge. I haven't got a national team at the moment. I'm flitting every week.
Yeah, something we need to lock down. We've been to one national game, right? Or have you been to another one, Blognac? So,
well, we were discussing today over text the possibility of another one of going to Suresnes, but the schedulers, in their wisdom, have decided to put the Suresnes home game on the 16th of November at just about the latest possible time to make it convenient. So you can't. I was hoping, having bought tickets today to Stade de France, there are still tickets available. Well, as of this morning, there are to France v New Zealand, which I've done a rash purchase this morning, and I was eyeing up a Suresnes in the Nationale onto the Stade de France double, but it's basically gives yourself half an hour to get across town for a 35-minute taxi if you watch both games. So
there was me thinking I was getting a little trip to France without Rob clipping at my heels, and he's bloody gone and bought himself a ticket as well.
Probably be sat next to you as well. What a lovely touch that would be.
Speaking of which,
I gave you some homework last week.
Yeah, which I
wanted you to rank your nines.
Done with all of my homework since I got the homework. I did it last minute today on the train. Okay, what's this game? I'm just going to talk to you through my nines.
Yeah, I want to know your 1 to however far down the depth chart you want to go of French nines.
Okay,
picking for the autumn internationals.
So I've got 15 names here, but I've got a top 6 and then a top 4, and then sort of a UEFA Cup, Champions League, UEFA Cup, and then the Europa Milk League or whatever it's called. Honourable mentions. Dupont.
Yeah.
Le Garrec. This is, I think, in order as well.
Okay, yeah, I want them in order.
Quiu, Serran, Luku, Jeannot. I think that group I think there's quite a big gap now to the second group.
Okay.
Which is Grau, Labai, Carbonneau, Germain.
Which Labai? Racing or Van? Clovis, Racing, yeah, okay.
And then honourable mentions to the Bagna, Bézi, Machineau, Iriberin, Lesgourg.
Interesting. Did you have Carbonneau in there?
Yeah, he was in my second group.
You've missed out one that I had. So my I've got 15, but they're a bit fishy. Dupont, number 1. Number 2, I'm going Serran.
Okay.
Number 3, I'm going Luku. And as of this weekend, I've switched it. Number 4, I'm going Kuyu. Number 5, Le Garrec. I'd say that's your Champions League, the top 5. Then I'm going Jeannot, Grau, Fernandez.
Yes. That I genuinely meant to put him on my list. I do quite like Fernandez.
Carbonneau at 9. And then I'm pretty much done. 10, I've got it's one to look out for you. It's a young, slightly unknown halfback from Colomiers called Mathis Gaultier. I think he's one to watch for the French team. I think he might make the cut. Then I'm going Machineau, Cocotte, Para, Yashvili, Elisaud, Bebezier, Carbonneau Senior. You're going Le Garrec second.
Yeah, I think he was, well, in the Six Nations, he was exceptional when he came in. Like, genuinely, he ducked to water. He was pretty ropey at the weekend. And I love Luku. And I think if you could pick up the Bordeaux back line, and he just seems to tick in it more than he has done. He's had a few cracks now in the French team, and I think I'd give him another go if the Pont wasn't playing. But also, I think they might look elsewhere.
Well, will they pick the Bordeaux backline? I know that they've been pretty close to it.
Possibly. They're not going to pick it. He's not going to start though, is he?
No.
And
I'm absolutely baffled that you've not got Serran higher up. I was convinced
fourth.
you were going to have... Yeah, but I thought he'd be top 3. Because he's not making the squad if he's 4th.
Yeah, I don't think that would be wildly unfair.
I think that is wildly unfair.
I've got him 1 place out of the squad. What's wrong with that?
Yeah, but he's not in the squad. I think he's the next best after Dupont.
Interesting. Well, I'm not a selector, am I? But that's where I'd have him. He was excellent in Argentina, wasn't
he? Yeah, he was. And I've seen a probables according to Le Cannes Mondial, and the 3 scrum halves in the squad are Dupont, Le Garrec, and Luku. So you might be right.
Interesting.
Which I just feels like a weird balance. Those 3 in the squad, but no. Anyway, the next piece of selection thing. So I put a poll up on our Instagram story.
Just quickly before you go on to that, I know we said it a million times, but the depth of scrum half is genuinely mad.
Yeah,
like, it's quite something. Sorry.
I put a poll up, not the one about will, off the back of Elgin's article, will Ubebe win, which was 56% for no and 44% for yes. So a few more people think they won't make the cut. However, there was I think it was the front page of Midi Olympique had 4 possible 10 options for France, which were Ntamack, Jalabert, Ramos, and Dupont. Dupont got 0% of the vote on our poll. Ntamack 33% of the vote. Ramos 25%, but Jalabert got 42% of the vote. I think I voted for Jalabert, which is rogue because I could have split the vote, and I would love Ramos. But the voters, you can see the voters. I would like to point out the voters for Jalabert included Baz Barrington and Ben Bottker. So the professionals, a 3-time Champions Cup winner and a 1-time top 14 player of the season who is a fly half, both went for Jalabert. So I would say Jalabert feels like a fair pick in that one.
Yeah.
Is Ntamack injured as well, anyway?
Yeah.
Okay, well, null and void then. But I still think the whole Ramos, are you better off with Ramos and then sticking a Biel Barret at 15 or whoever you want, Atisogbe or Barre if you think he's in form, or
I think I'd rather have Jalabert and Ramos on the same pitch.
I think I would rather have. I think it's different for Toulouse, where you've got Kinghorn or Malia or Capuozzo, but and then the other one that I mean, the centres is all a bit of a mess just moving out, because I think Moefana is going to get banned for a bit now. Donti keeps getting hit in the head. Deporter has also been hit in the head and has broken a cheekbone. So you've kind of gone from having loads of options to having not many. But my thing is, well, we saw a little bit of Cost versus Gaetan at the weekend. I think Cost went off quite early at one point. We went off for a bit. Who came out on top of that for you? And who is the French centres for this autumn series?
Does
the form of Racing 92 put Fiku out?
I don't think so, particularly if it's neither Donti or Moefana. I think they'll go Fiku at 13. I think that's probably locked.
Yeah. I would have been interesting if Donti
alongside one of those guys.
Because
yeah,
Fiku was real poor at the weekend. I thought.
Yeah, he was
good defensively, and they love him defensively, but he's not showing much leadership in that team. It has to be said.
Yeah, I mean, I love Gaetan and Costs. I don't know if I'd start either of them against the All Blacks, regardless, unless you really had to with Fiku. 12 is interesting though.
Would you not go Fiku at 12?
I
he doesn't love it, but
I genuinely don't know, because I don't think I've ever seen him play there. So I don't know if it's as simple as what, England have done with, I know obviously very different players, but someone like Manu Tuolangi in the past, maybe it's an option. I couldn't tell you how well he'd sort of switch over.
He has played there. I couldn't tell you when, but I know he has. Antoine Frisch?
Yeah. Get a 8.5 out of 10 every game. So why not?
My picks would be, because I'm obviously, I've made it known before that I'm not always Gael Ficku's biggest fan. I'm going Frisch and Gaetan. Freshen it up. Let's see what they got.
Interesting. I don't know. I like them both.
I'd love to have seen Deporter and Gaetan. That would have been very cool.
Yeah, I would like to have seen Deporter outside either Donti or Moefana. Give him a little bit more freedom.
There's also one, looking at this probables list, there's one name in there, or a couple of names that would excite you. Roman Buros being one of them, but Pierre Bocheton is in this list of probables, which is quite cool.
Nice.
That'd be really cool to see him get a go. And Tavita Tafu, which is also very cool. But yeah, that was
Wednesday. The squad's announced.
Yeah, the squad's announced on Wednesday. I'm fascinated to see what comes out, because it does feel a little bit up in the air, mainly because they've just got so many options, and then the injuries have kind of complicated it a bit. But yeah,
there we go. Do you have any petit fours, digestifs to cleanse the palate after a heavy potato, Cantal cheese, and French rugby squad based?
I've got a few. Or you can go first.
Mate, I am genuinely struggling here. I have not been particularly, apart from watching back that elbow from the bloke for Cast, which is, I just watched it back when we had a little break a minute ago. It really is outrageous, like proper WWE. Yeah, I haven't got much, so take it away.
So I guess the big news is signing by Van with immediate effect of Stephen Varney, which is interesting. For me, I don't think he's anywhere near an international class scrum half. I know he's being given a chance because he's young, but he could really thrive at Van. So he's an exciting player when he kind of gets front foot ball, and can be really, really exciting player. So it could be really interesting to see him there. But yeah, he signed with immediate effect, which is quite cool. Another signing I saw it as a rumour yesterday, and I saw it confirmed today, happening at the end of the season. Apparently Montpellier are signing Lennox and
from Harlequins,
which is bizarre.
Yeah, it is. It's a bit mental. Apparently they're after Hugo Keenan as well. I'm not quite sure how they broker that, but
well, I've seen another Leinsterman that they've got their eye on in Ross Byrne, which I mean,
kind of figures, but it's also
they could do with a steady Eddie, that's for sure. I'm not completely against Hoggy starting at 10, by the way. I think he's quality. We know he's a good rugby player. He's got all the skills, big boot. What more do you want? He's clearly lost a bit of pace, but get him in the side. Anyway, that's the side. And then apparently in Montpellier looking at Finlay Christie, which is great news because that means he'll be Scottish scrum half in about 3 years. So wonderful because he is born in Scotland.
Yeah, nice.
He looks about Scottish as groundskeeper Willie. So more scrum half chat. I saw something that Leo Carbonneau is going to be released early from his contract and join Racing at the end of the season.
I didn't realise to go early. I knew they'd lined him up to replace Le Garrett when he goes to... But that is interesting.
I wonder how set in stone that is, because what happens if Brive get promoted? That just seems like such a weird thing for him to leave. He's captain at 19 of a club that his dad won a Champions Cup with. To leave your hometown club, I don't know. There's got to be a lot of cash there, especially if he helps take them to the top 14.
We'll see.
The other thing that I saw was just a nice one. Lakima Tangivalu won his 100th appearance for Po 100 cap, and they made him a special. I'm probably going to offend some people here, but they made him a special green and white kind of Fijian ceremonial outfit, like the kind of I don't know what I really struggle to know what you call it. It's like you drape it over your shoulders, but it's not a full cloak, and it's also not like a sash. It's like somewhere in between, but it's you know it when you see it.
Yeah,
not really a cape, but yeah, like a ceremonial dress in kind of green and white with 100 and Lakima Tangivalu written all over it. It was really cool. Yeah, guy that's had a lot of injuries as well. Would love to see him play a bit more.
I've actually got one hot off the press. You might have just seen this news come through with a new follower on Instagram.
Kerwin Bosch. Very nice.
Kerwin Bosch.
Wow.
There you go. So join us next week when we'll be speaking to Brive's new signing, Kerwin Bosch, and we try and broker that deal at some point over the next 6 months. You can follow us on TikTok, on Instagram, particularly if you want to see mouldy food from lower league English football grounds.
Town, yeah.
And you can also follow us on
X and Threads.
X and Threads. You can
and
find
the
us there.
long form previews are now going to be posted every week on YouTube. So if you're not on TikTok and you want a little bit more of an in-depth preview from me and some me chucking Richard under the bus, then check us out on YouTube as well.
If you're more of a test match rather than 2020 sort of character, get on that for your broadsheet content. Alrighty, I've been Richard, that has been Rob. We've been the Rosbiff Rugby Podcast, and we will see you next week. Au revoir.
Au revoir.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.